1. I'm a 23-year-old female and worked about a year ago at a call center that was small, and our policy on clothes was business casual. For reference, I am 5'3" and a big, beautiful woman. I have a pear shape with big thighs and a C-cup chest. On the curvier side, but still big. I had always been insecure and had body image issues, but then became very confident. I was very nice and always smiling to people, as well as dressing with clothes that appealed to my shape. Yes, a little tight, but no cleavage nor short dresses or skirts. I don't know if it's conceited of me to say, but I've come a long way since being the shy, baggy-clothes duff from my high school. Well, there's this woman who was well into her 40s, who is big too. She would come in with Crocs, baggy pajama pants, and super baggy shirts with out-of-bed hair. She would always stare at me in anger or talk about me as well. I never cared because I'd gotten used to it, until she started getting bolder by coming up to me and nitpicking my clothes. For reference, the first time she came up to me, I had a long cardigan and tube-top jumpsuit. I have a bigger bottom than chest, so it came as a surprise when she said my breasts were out and I needed to cover up. Then proceeded to tug at my jumpsuit. I cried in the bathroom about how embarrassed I was and went to my supervisor about this, asking if I was out of dress code. She said no and that she'd talk to her. Mind you, I didn't know they were besties, so I go about my shift. This happens 2 more times and no resolution. My last straw came when she started making a scene in front of my coworkers. I was wearing a knee-length skirt with a sweater. As I'm talking to a coworker, and others are around, she comes up and says, "Again? It's as if you're asking for attention." Confused, I look around and ask what she means. She points at my legs and says I'm practically naked. My skirt had lifted an inch up from my knee from shifting around in my seat. So I stand up and say out loud for everybody to hear, "Why do you constantly pick on me? Is it really my clothes, or is it something different, like the color of my skin? I'm really curious because you're constantly messing with me and aren't even worried about your agents." She was a supervisor for a neighboring company cubicle, but constantly by our desks, trying to flirt with male workers. She then started stuttering and darting her eyes around, realizing everybody started looking and standing from their desks. She quickly said, No, it's not like that. I'm just trying to watch out for you. You know, big girl to big girl. Just wasn't sure if you were okay with what you were wearing." Clearly, I'm here working, and I have my own supervisor to let me know if I'm out of dress code. After that, it was nothing but smiles and constantly offering me snacks. Still makes me chuckle to this day. I almost forgot to add that when she had tried to make a scene in front of my coworkers and I had called her out, her excuse was that HR had told her to come over and let me know I was dressed inappropriately. Which I told her that I know no management is present, nor any female sips aside from her, so was she implying a male higher-up was looking at my body in an inappropriate way. And then she again started stuttering and making excuses. 2. This happened a couple or 3 decades ago in the military. I was in charge of the squadron budget and made sure all unit expenditures were proper, right funds account, and funds were available. I was also to make sure that our budget lasted the whole fiscal year. We got a new commander who was the worst micromanager I saw in my 20-year career. I made an appointment for my initial budget brief and proceeded to lay out our current expenditures, funding available, and the plans to spend it all by the end of the fiscal year. My new commander then tells me that he wants oversight on every penny spent in the squadron. I said I could do that, but I needed some clarification. He said very condescendingly, "Did you not hear me, Sergeant? I said every penny. I will approve every penny spent in this squadron before it is spent." I said, "Yes, sir. Do you want me to send paper requests or email them to you?" He said email would be sufficient and dismissed me. I knew exactly what to do. I called all the bosses who ran the different shops and told them what the commander had said and that I had no choice but to comply. None of them were happy, and a couple of them caught the tone in my voice and figured out what I was doing. I even told the squadron chief what was going to happen, and he told me that he would have my back. So I took all 27 spending accounts down to $0 available. Even the most critical aircraft parts couldn't be ordered until they sent me an email, which I forwarded to the commander. He never once responded. It took 2 weeks for everything to hit the fan. It was longer than I thought it would take, and I was starting to get nervous. We were in a staff meeting, and the commander was pissed. He said he'd just gotten his ass chewed by the colonel because of all the broke airplanes waiting on parts to be bought. He turned to the first flight chief, asked him why he had so much equipment that wasn't getting fixed. Sergeant Baloney won't approve us buying any parts. The commander whipped his hand towards me and angrily asked what the problem was. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Sir, I sent out those requests to you 2 weeks ago." You could see the color drain from his face as he quickly looked down. "We'll talk about this after the meeting." I kept my straight face, and I swear that I heard more than one muffled chuckle from the chiefs at the conference table. When the meeting was over, the commander told me to meet with him in his office. The chief that threw me under the bus winked at me and smiled. I walked in right behind the boss and reported formally. We normally only do this if we're in trouble or are getting praise, but this guy insisted on it from everyone every time. "Mike, apparently I was now on a first-name basis. You seem to have a pretty firm grasp on the budget and what the flights need. I think you can approve the normal day-to-day stuff and just bring the big things to me." "Yes, sir," was all I could say without busting out in laughter. Every request was approved and ordered within an hour, and I was never questioned again. Chief is Chief Master Sergeant, the highest enlisted rank in the U.S. Air Force. I found out later that the chiefs had all gotten together and decided to go along with my idea. They could have stopped it immediately, but decided to teach the commander a lesson. Somehow the colonel that chewed my commander's ass had gotten word of what was going on and decided enough was enough, but he still didn't let on that he knew the real reason. Apparently, he thought my commander needed some education too. 3. For a little context, I'm a construction worker with my own company truck. As far as what I've seen in my area, most people with company trucks have this thing, where the front 2 seats always stay very clean, aside from dirt that comes from working in my field of work. The back seats, however, are a different story. It is amazing how much trash gets thrown back there, whether it be water bottles, snack wrappers, food wrappers, etc. My company has a contract with a local detailer that comes and washes and vacuums all company trucks bi-weekly to keep the appearance up. We are just responsible for moving all large trash, so they don't have to do too much work. Usually, we just throw out everything at the dumpster at the shop before the detailer goes in and works his magic. Anyways, onto the story. So today, I had just finished up a service call and was about to go on my lunch break. I had stopped at a local gas station near downtown Austin to pour gas right before I headed off to get some tacos. As I'm pouring gas, I look in the back of my tailgate and realize I forgot to throw away at the job site and didn't want to run the risk of it flying out and possibly causing an accident. So naturally, I decide to take it out, break the box down, and toss it in the trash at the pump. Now, the box itself wasn't too big, about the size of a shoebox, and once broken down, it was probably the quarter of that size. As soon as I took the broken down box and placed it in the trash, one of the ladies who works at the gas station came out furious, saying I wasn't allowed to throw away that box. She claimed the trash was only for smaller items and we weren't allowed to throw away larger things. I was really confused and told her that it wasn't really all that big and I didn't see an issue. She then argued that the cardboard can unravel and fill up the bin, and then she would have to replace the bags. I didn't feel like arguing, so I just obliged and took out the box and placed it back in the tailgate. She thanked me for not being so difficult and was about to go into the gas station before I stopped her and asked, "So then, what can I throw away in the trash?" She replied with anything small like water bottles, taco bags, wrappers, etc. Now cue the malicious compliance. After she said that, I thanked her for letting me know, and proceeded to open the back door of my truck, and she got a hold of all the mess. I then proceeded to take out small loads of empty water bottles, taco bags, etc. It truly is amazing how much trash builds up in these construction trucks. Unless one had been recently cleaned out, I have never seen one with little to no mess. I think I'm pretty good at tossing stuff out of my truck, but every 2 weeks, when I submit my truck for cleaning, it always baffles me how much mess is in there. I then proceeded to stuff the trash can with the trash to fill it up. Now granted, these trash cans already had trash in them and weren't all that big, and I didn't really press down the trash to make more fit. I then proceeded to move to the next trash can and started filling that one up, all while looking at her with the biggest smirk on my face. She then proceeded to tell me that I can't be throwing out that much stuff because it's only meant for small things that I bought from the store. I then proceeded to show her that almost all this stuff can be bought at the store she was working at. She then screams at me saying there's no way I bought everything there and that I probably got some from other places as well. I then pulled out the company gas card that was from her gas station and told her this was the only gas station I'm allowed to use while in this vehicle. So yes, I come to this store a lot since it's right by my job, and most of this, other than the taco wrappers, were from here. She then proceeded to call me an asshole and a few other names as she stormed off into the store. I just sat there with such a huge feeling of accomplishment, knowing that I dealt with that Karen accordingly. If she would have just let me throw out the small box, she wouldn't have had to come out and replace the trash bags right now and could be sitting inside on your phone. But now you gotta come out and do the job you're getting paid to do. It must suck to actually have to do what you were hired to do, all because you thought some small pieces of cardboard would fill up one little trash can. Little words of advice: next time, mind your own business. 4. This is a fairly minor one from 20 years ago, but I was recently reminded of it. Please remember, I'm a native English speaker typing at a keyboard, so any spelling and grammar mistakes are my own dumb fault. So my family owns a costume store, and as a teenager I of course helped run it. Now, having grown up with this place, I actually knew way more about makeup than any heterosexual teenage boy should know. It's a Friday afternoon in October. People are coming through, getting their Halloween costumes and makeup. I'm answering the phone and running around helping people find things after getting out of school, when in walks, well, picture a dried-up old barfly of a woman with way too much plastic surgery and the most bleached platinum blonde hair you can imagine, down to nearly her butt, carrying an expensive purse. I'm sure the image you have in your head is kinder than what she actually looked like, but we'll have to work with what we've got. She's picking out her stuff and asks if I had colored hairspray. Yes, ma'am, it's right over here, but I wouldn't recommend it for...
I don't need some boy telling me how to do my makeup. I know what I'm doing, just give me that.
And grabs the can of green hairspray I was holding out of my hand. Okay, great. I was about to tell you this hairspray will stain, but you said you knew what you were doing. Yes, have a nice day, ma'am. Fast forwards to the evening of the following Monday, and here comes the platinum blonde. Only now her hair is absolutely freaking mint green. She launches into an absolute hissy fit over how she had washed her hair 3 whole times, and it still wasn't coming out. She points out me by saying how I am responsible for all of this. I mentioned this was a family business, right? The manager she was screaming to was my mother, who also happened to have been up front running the register the previous Friday, and had heard the entire exchange. Well, ma'am, as my son tried to tell you on Friday, this brand of colored hairspray is known to cause stains if your hair is damaged or overtreated. You said you were aware of how it worked, and he just let you have it, so we did. See, folks, normally hair that is healthy has these little flaps that lay down. It's why hair is slick if you run a finger down it one way, but rougher if you run it up the other way. If you bleach your hair and treat it badly, those little flaps curl up, meaning any kind of dye you put on them absolutely sinks in and will not come back out. Normal permanent hair dye has got nothing on what happens when you try to put what's basically colored varnish on messed up hair. And her hair was bleached white, not silver, but a sheet of notebook paper white. Don't know if it ever came out, but to this day it gives me warm fuzzies just thinking about how I hope she tried to fix it with more bleaching and watched her long hair freaking dissolve. 5. I'll try to keep the background detail as short as possible. My dad owned a small repair shop on a busy road, with a small single-car-width road at the back of the lot. Cars used the one-lane road to bypass slow traffic on the main thoroughfare. Despite buildings, mostly houses and garages, and fences just a few feet off the road, cars would fly through there. Speed limit was 15 miles per hour, but police clocked cars at over 70 miles per hour. As a result, there were lots of accidents and property damage. After a bunch of complaints, the city finally agreed to install speed bumps. Yay! In addition to the speed bumps, the entire road was redone. It took a couple of days, and temperatures were near 100 degrees. Our shop had air conditioning and a fridge stocked with sodas and water. We let the workers know they could come in and cool off or use the restroom at any time. A few times a day, we'd hand out cold drinks as well. It is a small town, and we knew most of these guys. When it was finished, the road was brand new and the new speed bumps painted bright yellow. It was a huge help with the speeding cars. There was just one problem. Our shop sat between two speed bumps, and those cars would still get quite a bit of speed between them. They were pretty far apart. Dad went out and painted the yellow stripe in the road behind our shop about the width of the speed bumps. This was quite effective and fooled the majority of drivers, unless they drove that stretch often. There was one particular driver of a Mustang who would always speed between bumps. After being fooled by the fake stripe, he got out of his car and came into our shop to complain, shouting and threatening to kick everyone's ass. For the next week or so, he made sure to gun it each time he passed by, flip us off through trash, etc. A couple of weeks later, the same street depot workers stopped in and asked if the yellow stripe in the road was intended to look like a speed bump, and my dad explained to them about the cars speeding in between. They were adding additional speed bumps to another section of the road a few blocks up, and sent the truck over to dump some asphalt, giving us our very own speed bump. They painted it yellow and added a bump warning sign. They said to consider it as a thank you for the air conditioning and cold drinks, and went on their way. The following morning, we arrived at work to find the neighbor's privacy fence damaged and the remnants of Mr. Mustang's ground effects strewn everywhere. Turns out he did his daily speed run at our fake bump and encountered the real thing. The car sat really low, and it destroyed the ground effects among other things. And then he went off the road and took out a couple of sections of privacy fence. There were deep gouges in the speed bump, so I can only imagine what else was damaged on the car. Mr. Mustang came in later that morning, fuming and threatening to sue. We told him to get bent. Never heard from him again. For the next few weeks, we did accumulate a nice collection of exhaust pipes, muffler pieces, and other assorted souvenirs from other drivers. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge's Ice Cream, episode 213. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Please do press the like button before you go, and share the video around with friends and family, at a reasonable speed. Okay, let's see. And before we go on, we have a little birthday shout-out to give to Kristen. Yes, Kristen's birthday is on the 16th, which is today. I hope you have a great birthday today, Kristen, whatever you choose to do. January is always it's not the best month of the year, is it? I suppose we should be kind to old January. It's doing its best, but now it's stuck right there at the start of the year, and no one wants to deal with it. So I want you to make sure you're having a great time all through January. I want you to spoil yourself and treat yourself, and maybe do something you've been putting off that you really want to do. Now, before I go, I'd like to sing Happy Birthday, if I may. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kristen. Happy birthday to you. All right then. So let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: how long does it take you on average when you have an idea to do something nice for yourself that might require a little bit of effort to actually doing it? This is something I've become somewhat notorious, or perhaps the word lazy would be better, about over the years. And that it used to be if I decided, okay, I'm going to treat myself, make a nice from-scratch meal at the weekend or something like that, or I'm going to buy this or that to improve the home. I'd do it pretty quickly, right? Or I'd do it as soon as funds allowed. But I find that as I've gotten older, I'll have the idea to think, okay, I haven't had this meal for a while, I'm going to buy the ingredients and I'll make it this weekend. Then the weekend comes and it's okay, I don't have time or energy, or I want to stream, so I want to do that. I'll do it afterwards. Not in the mood right now, I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow you're busy, or somehow you get busy even though you're not meant to be. Then eventually you'll do it like a week or two later. Sometimes in a rush before the mushrooms or whatever go off. And that seems to have been something that's cropped up as I've gotten older. And maybe it's just me, I don't know. I hope it's not just me, but if it is, that's fine, I'll accept your judgment with quiet, tearful dignity. But if you're not, I'd love to hear some of your opinions below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.